Hello, the following show you're about to see is heavily inspired by two very specific things that I forgot to mention while recording the main portion of this video. So I'm going to do that now before we get into the guest and the actual show itself, called Can Films Save My Life? So the first thing I want to mention is Daisuke Beppu, who recently has been doing a number of one-on-one conversations slash interview segments on his channel with other YouTubers, which has been really fun for me to listen to, not in terms of just finding new people in the film YouTube community, but also just hearing stories about people's lives through films and all that kind of stuff. It's a nice fun thing to do, and I've seen other YouTubers now adopt this, and if they're doing their own kind of one-on-one conversations, it just seems to spread the community a bit more, and I really like that. So that was one of the big inspirations for me to do something like this and try to do my own series, but with a little bit of a different twist, and that twist comes from the Films to Be Buried With podcast, which is hosted by Brett Goldstein. It's a great podcast. I highly recommend you listen to it. It's a show in which he gets people on to talk about their life through films, which is essentially what this is that I'm doing with my YouTube friends. But I love the answers that you get to some of these kinds of questions. I've kind of tailored it to my own kind of questions. It's not exactly the same, and I've twisted the concept a little bit too to make it a little bit more fun, hopefully. But just hearing those kinds of like questions and answers from people when it comes to films that they love and have loved throughout their life, I just love hearing those answers. And I sometimes think I'd love to hear like my YouTube friends and the people who I like watching on YouTube give those answers, but they're not famous comedians or writers or actors, so they'll never be on that podcast. So shit, why don't I just do it myself? So that's kind of the impetus for me doing this, and I had to name check that podcast and also Daisuke as the two inspirations for what you're about to see, which will hopefully continue with other guests in the future. And if you're interested in appearing as well, then let me know, and I'm going to try and find some interesting people to talk to next. But we're going to start with the pilot episode, the debut of Can Films Save My Life? I hope you enjoy. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to a very special new segment on the channel called Can Films Save My Life? We'll get to that in just a second, but first of all, we're starting this with a huge guest for me. So this is pretty big because this is someone that I've known for almost 10 years now, my oldest YouTube friend, in fact. It is Chris from CM42TV. How's it going, man?
It's going good. It's going good. It's a pleasure to finally speak with you in real time, because obviously I've done cameos here and there, but in terms of actually speaking to you here on the channel, very excited. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, that's right. You've done a few cameos in the marathons, and I think something else as well. Was it the Seven Samurai review?
Yeah, Asian cinema season. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah,
cool.
we've never really had a proper chat before, so this is pretty.
Am
cool.
I your oldest friend here? That's crazy.
Through you being a YouTuber, yeah, I'd say.
Right.
I can't think of anyone else, because I mean, when I started in 2011, I found your channel pretty quickly through the IWC.
Right. Yeah.
But
that thing back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone else. And it's great that you kept going, because obviously with YouTube, there's people who come and go, and they'll leave and come back and stuff. But you've been pretty consistent. In fact, we'll start. Just tell us a little bit about your channel and what you do now, and the whole. Just condense the whole journey into a bite size, because obviously.
Well, I started a channel in like 2007, right back at like the infancy of YouTube, and it was like all about wrestling and wrestling figures. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. People are coming to me for advice now. So I would do like wrestling figure videos and wrestling DVD reviews and that sort of thing for years. And there's always copyright issues here and there. I'm sure you're well aware of it now. But I would lose every channel that I had. And then I created the one that I use now, which is CM42TV. I created that in 2011. And I just started off doing kind of movie stuff, wrestling stuff, always kind of like to blend them both. But nowadays, I try to do something a little bit different. I try to keep a bit of both in there, whether it be movies and wrestling and that sort of thing. But I started doing reaction videos to certain things just because I needed a bit of a change. And I tried that and it ended up being a lot of fun. So I've been doing that a bunch. I started doing music reactions, but I don't know anything about music. I'm just like, I just wanted to do it just for something different. And now I'll try and react to trailers or whatever and funny videos on YouTube. And that's way more up my street because I can just kind of laugh and kind of go along with it and make silly comments here and there, and that's been going good. So yeah, it's just a bit of everything. So anything that can kind of keep me occupied, then I'm happy to I'm happy to put on there.
Yeah, and obviously you have your two podcasts as well. Are you still doing the Good Bit podcast? Is that
Still doing a good bit. It's just not happened since February, just because of the whole madness.
Yeah, because you usually have your friends involved, and it's kind of in the same room kind of thing.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing. I like to kind of get people together. You know, I mean, this is great the fact we're able to do this, but I've never tried to get numerous people on for the Good Bit on here. You know, so but the Good Bit's a movie podcast, and then for wrestling, I started a new one in lockdown called the Wrestling Connection, which is like this, and it's all about wrestling positivity and trying to connect people and that sort of thing. So that's what I've been up to in quarantine anyway.
Yeah, the Good Bit podcast is really good, and I've always wanted to do a podcast myself where staying consistent has always been my problem, but you've seemed to, even though there's gaps, I think that you've really kept that going really well. How many episodes have you done overall? There's quite a bit, isn't it? It's like...
The Good Bit, I think we're on 63 or something. Yeah,
I remember when you hit like 50 episodes. It was like a milestone. So
yeah, I'm waiting for that 100. Do it in front of a live audience and all that stuff, but that's not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, even though it's good that we're talking in real time and everything, I have to inform you that this isn't actually real. You've had an accident. The doctors have spoken to me about it. They weren't entirely clear about what happened, but I've heard a rumor that you were filming 30 reaction videos in a row, and you were so tired when you finished, you reached up to kind of unhook the camera from the tripod, and it fell and hit you on the head. That's what I heard. That's the rumor. But either way, they can't get through to you, and so they've sent me into your mind in kind of a format that you would understand, with the YouTube live chat. And they think, given your passion for films, if I were to ask you a certain number of questions about your life through films, it might re-spark something in your brain and bring you back. So can films save your life is kind of the topic here, but this is actually all inside your head.
I was thinking that at first because this can't be real, you know?
Yeah, because you probably didn't even remember setting up, right? You just were suddenly here, you know.
I didn't set up. No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's weird for me too. Trust me. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing either.
I'm glad we're in the same boat. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but I have the questions here. 15 questions. So we're gonna start off with a fairly obvious one. What was the first film you remember seeing?
Well, I mean, that's a broad question because, you know, I can remember certain films and I can remember certain firsts, like the first cinema trip or the first time I saw a massive blockbuster sort of thing. But in terms of the very first one, I'm not sure. Yeah. Immediately I think of like one of those films from the early 2000s, like Scooby-Doo or Spider-Man, even the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films, the first one. Because I really remember that for the second film, they brought out that PlayStation 2 game that I would play all the time. That kind of open world Spider-Man 2 game. It was the first of its kind, really, where it was just mental, you could do anything. So that kind of stands out in terms of a game sort of aspect. But in terms of film, the first Spider-Man's a big one. And actually, it was on TV recently, and I watched it, and I was like, getting those kind of nostalgia feelings. So that's why I think it's a very early memory for me. In terms of cinema-wise, I know the first film I saw in the cinema was Monsters, Inc. in 2001.
Ah, nice.
And it was a weird cinema. It had like, you know, so in a cinema you've got all your chairs here and your stairs, they go up in between the aisles and that sort of thing. With this cinema had like big kind of steps, you know, not just your usual staircase. It was like big steps. And I remember sitting there and there was other kids in the film, you know, it's a Disney film, of course. And there was just kids like running up and down the aisle, just doing flips and stuff off these steps and rolling around and pushing each other and stuff. And I remember saying to my mum, like, I want to go and play with those people. I didn't know who they were, you know, they're strangers. Yeah. And my mum's like, no, we're in the cinema. This is where you sit and you enjoy a film. And at that age, you're kind of like, you just kind of want to go and play. But I'm so thankful I didn't do that, because nowadays, if I'm in the cinema and there's someone like disturbing the whole food, you just hate them, no matter what age they are, you know? So, early memories, those are two that pop straight into my head.
Yeah, I can't tell you the amount of times I've been in a cinema and just thought, fucking kids, like, you just... I haven't seen that, though, people flipping down the stairs. That's a whole different experience. But
doing moonsaults and stuff. But even it's not just like kids. Like, I saw... This is
sure, I know.
I saw Creed 2. You remember you seen the sequel of Creed? Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there and there's just, I guess it's like teenagers or whatever behind me, and one of their phones rings. And I'm just assuming, okay, they've forgotten to put it on silent or whatever, but then the guy just picks up the phone. Just goes, hello. And then obviously the person says something and he goes, oh, you know, I'm not busy. And starts having the chat. I was like, oh my God. The
The pain I feel just hearing that secondhand. Oh.
Oh, it's brutal. It's brutal. And it's such a good film, Creed 2 as well. It kind of ruined it. Anyway.
Yeah, that's a shame. I can't remember what film it was, but I think it was Knives Out we went to see. And there was this young couple in the front row, and they're just like holding the phone up and like taking like flash selfies.
All right.
And then they were just pointing at the screen, just big flashes, and then he grabbed her around the neck, and they went out of the cinema. I was like, good, leave. And then they came back in again. I'm like, oh my god.
Oh my god.
What are you doing here? You're spending money to do shit that you could be doing outside. Anyway, we
actually paid. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we get into a whole rant about this.
Video.
Yeah. All right, so so Spider-Man, Monsters Inc. When were you born? What year were you born?
You ready for this?
Yeah.
1997.
Okay, yeah. I was just wondering. I mean, obviously I'm a little bit older than you.
I didn't want you to feel old, you know.
No, it's okay. I'm not old. I'm just not young. I'm not young. That's the thing.
Exactly. Exactly.
So next question, kind of moving forward a little bit, is what was your favorite film as a kid?
You know, I became more of a movie viewer and movie buff when I got older, really.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I wasn't really much into film. It was more TV shows and like Disney and Nickelodeon TV shows were my thing, and of course wrestling was the big one. Clearly didn't grow out of either. So I would always watch the films with like the actors from the TV shows in there, you know. So Disney, like, so for like Drake and Josh, for example, I watched Drake and Josh when I was younger. The Drake and Josh movie was one of my favorites. Things like the SpongeBob movie, because obviously the SpongeBob TV show, things like that. And I don't know why, maybe it's an attention span thing, but I didn't really have a one favorite. But when I do think back to that time, I think of those films. Even High School Musical would be another one, a pure guilty pleasure of mine, because a bunch of the actors were in the Disney shows, you know. And then we discovered Zac Efron, and he became a hero. But then, in terms of other animated films, that sort of thing, I always watch Shrek 2, those sort of films. It's just the classics around that age for the type of fan I was and the type of age I was at that time, you know. But there wasn't one particular film, you know.
Yeah, I can understand that, seeing as you kind of, I think I could tell that through the way that you were really into wrestling when I first met you through YouTube and stuff, and then it was a few years later that you started talking about films more, and then so that kind of makes sense. And are you still doing drama, or is that a thing that you've finished that?
Yeah, I went to drama school in 2015, and then I graduated at the end of 2018. So I got like my degree and that sort of thing, and now I have an agent and I have all these things, and I try to get roles and certain things. But I mean, it's been so quiet. I'm not really much of a pantomime kind of guy, but around this sort of time of year, everybody casts for pantos. So not only has there been no work throughout 2020 because the whole industry shut down, now we're going into panto season, you know. So I've just kind of been trying to find other things to do this year. But I still do that, and that was like an early thing as well, you know. The kind of, I wanted to perform and that sort of thing, you know.
Well, the next question is, what film for you defined your teenage years? So it might be another tricky one for you to answer, but I think that maybe more as you were beginning to get into films more, maybe something that would stand out.
Yeah, when I was a teenager and we kind of first spoke, you were actually a big part of me kind of wanting to talk about films a lot more on YouTube and kind of explore different things like that. I remember getting the Batman 4 film Blu-ray set thing. And it's not as if it was like films that I would watch over and over again. And still to this day, like I watched the first one, you know, the 89 one, a lot. But I always have, because I had that Blu-ray set, it was always there. I'd always talk about it. Like, those sort of films kind of pop into my mind from around that time. When I was in school, we studied Back to the Future when I was in high school, and I like English class and that sort of thing. And then other films like the Dark Knight and films like that came out around that sort of time. And I wouldn't really go to the cinema as often as I do now, because now I have like a cinema card and I try to go every week and that sort of thing. We're actually supposed to go last night. It was supposed to be the big return after quarantine. We were going to go see Tenet. But then my mates that I go with, one of their girlfriends tested positive. So it was like this last minute thing, like, okay, let's hold off a little bit longer till things get a bit safer again.
Cool the jets.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The film can wait, you know. So but anyway, there's not one real film, but I think of Batman a lot. It's why I'm excited for the new one coming out, Back to the Future, because it was constantly in my life. But there's not one main film. Sorry.
Okay. No, it's fine. As long as you answer the questions honestly, I think you'll be okay by the end of it.
Yeah. I hope to get out of this horrible mess.
Now, speaking of horrible mess, I mean, this whole pandemic and everything, and I've been considering the cinema, but It just, I don't trust the public, you know. I trust myself to be safe and all that, but it's just, I don't know. I'm still on the fence.
That's the thing. I'm just thinking maybe it's one of the safer places to go because you're all spread out and like there is that distancing involved, but because you're all packed in the one room, you know, it's a little bit
kind of... because it's indoors. That's kind of the tricky thing, isn't
that's
it?
another
Really?
one,
I don't know. Yeah, it's just up in the air.
Hopefully soon, no. Yeah,
because I have a week off at the minute, so it's like the temptation to go to the cinema, especially with Tenet out and even the New Mutants. I'd like to see what that's like.
Well,
but, you know.
I'll probably end up going to see New Mutants because my dad wants to see it, so we probably end up going to see that. But in terms of like making that first big trip back, it's yet to happen.
Yeah. The next question is, what is your favorite film that you associate strongly with a family member or a friend? So it's not necessarily your favorite film of all time, but one that you really link to someone that's kind of makes it special.
I think I'll go with the Christmas films for this one because I love like Christmas movies and festive films like that because it always brings people together, especially like my family and that sort of thing. We always watch films on our own or whatever, you know, we'll go to the cinema if we get the chance, but at Christmas time it's always the same, you know, Home Alone 2, Elf, Polar Express, Santa Claus, all the classics, and we'll always end up watching it together. So I think when those films are talked about, then I associate them with my mum, my dad and my sister and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And when I was in school before, like we would always like wind down for Christmas time and they would play the films in class and stuff, you know, and sometimes they'll put on Elf or something. I couldn't watch it in class because I had to wait to watch it with the family, you know what I mean? So there's like that sort of difference. I always wanted to associate that film or those films with, you know, my family members or whatever. So that'd probably be what I'd go for in terms of associating them with my family. In terms of friends though, and last year, 2019?
Yeah.
What year did
yes, last year was 2019.
What year were we in? When did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, was that last year?
Yeah.
Tarantino. I bonded with my mate Aaron, who used to co-host the Good Bit podcast with me. And he ended up moving to London and that sort of thing. So we kind of split up in terms of doing the podcast together. But because he moved down there, he was always talking about, you should come down and we'll go see a film together. And we were thinking, okay, that sounds like a fun thing to make and do a podcast down there and stuff. But we never found the right film to go and see. And then, you know, we always bonded about the Tarantino films and we knew the new one was coming out. So like I made a point of getting a flight and going down and staying with him to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And we did the podcast in his flat in London. So now every time I think about Tarantino and that film in particular, I think about my former co-host of the podcast. So I guess that's one that I associate with a pal, you know.
Yeah, that's nice. What did you think of the film?
I mean, I loved it so much.
Yeah.
It was one of those ones where at the time I'm thinking, well, this can't be it. You know, I mean, there's so many things about Tarantino's films that you just expect. You know, you expect all these things from him and the way his films go. But when you don't get that, it totally throws you off. And it's probably not just a Tarantino thing. I guess if you're watching Star Wars or something, if something's not going the way you think, you're just thinking, is this going to be how I want it to be? And then this mad ending of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I was like, okay, yeah, well, we're watching a Tarantino film now, you know. So I did. At the end, I loved it more than anything.
Yeah, I need to revisit that one. I'm still a little unsure about what I feel about it. I think, but
there's lots of things that might make you think that. Yeah,
but there's undeniable moments of just brilliance in that. The thing, like the main thing people were ragging on it for was like, oh, just 5 minutes of Brad Pitt driving through Hollywood, and I was like, that was great. I love that.
It's genius. Yeah, that's the point, though, isn't it? That's the point.
Chilling out.
You want to exactly. You want to watch Brad Pitt doing that. You know what I mean? Yeah, totally. I get that.
If anyone's going to do it, it's Brad Pitt, and he's going to look cool while he's doing it as well.
Exactly.
What's the funniest film you've ever seen?
I usually go with Europe.
Right, I was going to say, I know for you it's going to be tricky because you're big into comedy, but...
Yeah. Well, I usually go with Airplane from 1980. I think that is the funniest film I've ever seen. You know what I mean? It's just like joke after joke after joke. There's films like that as well that do joke after joke after joke, but just there's something about this one. There's a certain charm about it. And I remember around the time I saw it, I think it was like 2008 or something, so I was really young. I just watched The Naked Gun. Or I'd watched that moment. I don't know if it's the second Naked Gun or the third one, but there's a point where Leslie Nielsen's chasing someone in like a car chase, and like the car chase goes through the zoo, and then like the person he's chasing ends up just coming out like on top of a giraffe, just casually, you know.
I think that's one of the sequels because I watched the original recently and I can't remember that.
I'm sure it's one of the sequels, and I just remember just dying, like the fact that's like a possibility, you know. So I remember telling my dad about this. I was like, there's like a giraffe and everything. And my dad's like, oh, you need to watch Airplane. Like, Airplane's so much funnier and it's so much more witty.
Yeah.
And this is like on a Saturday night, past midnight, you know, so it's like we're nearly going to bed soon. And he's like, I think I've got Airplane on DVD. And like he went and found Airplane and we just put it on. This is like late at night. So when I was really young, staying up that late was like a rarity, you know?
Yeah.
And then getting to watch Airplane. And there's just like moments in, there's just swearing. And just like there's one point where it's just a naked woman just runs in front of the screen. And like in 2008, young guy Chris, that was mental, you know. So that like really stuck with me. Not just that one scene, of course, but like all the other moments and the funny jokes and stuff. And now to the point where it's quoted so much in my house, and anytime I watch it, I still just howl. It's like those funny sitcoms that you can watch over and over again and tell people about. You know, it's one of those films that I kind of associate with that. So I think funniest film I've ever seen was Airplane.
Yeah, that's a really good shout. Like that, we watched that also recently, and it just holds up so well. And it really is. It's one of those films where it's the whole foundation of it is joke, 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 and that's a really tricky thing to pull off. Like I know people love the Deadpool films, and I enjoy them, but they're very much, they make me roll my eyes a bit because it's like, okay, joke after joke after joke, and they don't all land. But Airplane, it's just like boom, boom, boom. And it just...
but the thing with Deadpool though, they're making a joke because it's Deadpool.
Yeah.
Whereas Airplane, it's the further, like the actual story progresses because of
right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
You know, so I don't know. There's something about the film that I could just watch over and over again. You know,
just those little asides when they're like, "All right, boys, let's take some pictures." Start pulling the frames off the wall.
Yeah, or when
just like what
the plane ticket. You want it smoking or non-smoking, and it gives them it, and it's just this flames coming off. Brilliant, man.
See, just talking about it is hilarious. So
I might watch it again soon.
Yeah, you picked a great one there. If you could only watch one genre for the rest of your life, what would it be? Now, this can be fairly broad. You know, you could just pick drama. You could pick drama and have like really just a massive
every
selection.
film ever. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But you know, I'd say more specific genres. You know, that you can nail down.
Yeah, I feel like everyone would say comedy just because it's like if you only want one thing, you know, but I feel like you can laugh. Other things can make you laugh, you know.
True.
But there's those moments you can go see a comedy film and have a great time, but when you go to the cinema and you see like a great thriller or something like that that really kind of hooks you, and you're on the edge of your seat and you're gripping the arms of the chair and that sort of thing, you're really into it. I think that kind of is a bit more rich these days, and like it's harder to pull off, I guess, because comedy nowadays is like every new comedy film is a sequel to something, and it's like let's just fall on what the jokes of the past film was, for the most part. Obviously, there's some exceptions, but and sometimes comedy can come in these sort of thrillers and dramas, and you go, "Oh my god, that was hilarious! Where did that come from?" Sometimes those are funnier than the actual comedy films, I think.
Yeah.
But recently I had a bit of a moment where I was like, I think thriller is like my favorite genre because it's the one I really get invested in the most. I sit back and I check Twitter and Instagram and stuff watching comedies, which I shouldn't do. And it's so easy to reach for your phone in comedies because you're just going to laugh. You don't really need to pay attention and get emotionally involved. I mean, you can do, and it's probably going to be better for your viewing experience. But there's something about a thriller that you don't want to take your eyes off, and you don't want to check social media, and I think that's important, especially these days where social media is taking over everything. You should want to have that break, and I think thrillers are the best genre of film to do that, I think. So I'd probably go genre as my favourite one. I think when you watch a film more than once as well, especially a thriller, when you know the twists, I think I have a better experience watching it the second time because I know what's coming, I know what to expect, and then I can see the real details of it, and I pick up on those things more. I feel anyway. I know a lot of people like to watch the twists and you don't want the spoilers. And I'm one of those guys too, but I like to know what's going on. I guess it's because it's the wrestling fan in me.
Right, okay.
I know who's going to win, but I want to see how we get there, Yeah. So
that's a really good point. Well, I mean, it depends how good the thriller is. I mean, if it's constructed really well and then you see it again, you can see the signs that are kind of peppered in throughout. Or,
exactly.
If there's a big twist or something. So that's interesting.
It's kind of a moment. It's like, oh my God, this is a great film. You kind of takes you a couple of times to get that, I think.
Yeah, even though it's not a thriller, Knives Out was a film that I loved.
Oh, yeah.
And then I came out thinking it probably won't hold up very well on a rewatch because it's so built on revealing these things. And then everyone told me, no, you got to see it again. I saw it again, and it was so much better because there's all these details. And I was like, oh my God, because now you know the context of some of those scenes. you can see the way the actors are playing it, and it just has so much more weight to it. So
I only saw it once, and I loved it. Yeah, so I'll definitely check it out again.
Yeah. What is your favorite comfort film? Like the film that just you can put on, you know, whenever you're kind of feeling a bit down or something, or just something that makes you feel good just to watch it again.
I don't know. I feel like I go back to wrestling. Wrestling's my comfort thing.
Yeah.
It just reminds me of home, and it reminds me of my family. And I don't know. It's just anytime I want to be cheered up, I watch wrestling. It's not so much films. But if I was to think about, you know, happier times or whatever, I would go with maybe like the Rush Hour films. Maybe I know I've talked about them a bunch on my channel, and I've talked to you a bunch about them. But I guess the whole trilogy, the Rush Hour trilogy, was a film trilogy that I didn't know much about at the time. I watched growing up, and it was like films that had swearing in them and had guns and fighting scenes and that sort of thing. And because of that made me want to watch them. Really, you know, when I was really young.
Yeah.
And then as I was older, I was that nostalgia kick of those films really helped the viewing experience for me, because then I ended up loving Jackie Chan, you know, and I ended up loving Chris Tucker, and I ended up loving them individually, and then, oh my God, look at them together. And it just became this big thing. So now when I think about it, like, I smile. And I think that's kind of, is that the brief for this question? You know, if you think back and you go, oh, it reminds you of being happy.
Sure.
You know? So I guess that's what I would go with that. I remember going to the cinema to see the third one with a bunch of my mates, and it was the first time I got to go without my mum and dad, and, you know, I got to go just myself with my pals. Yeah. And that was a big deal for me, and I remember that film, and I consider that film really special for that reason, I guess. So I'd probably go with the Rush Hour trilogy. I know you watched them recently, and I know I've got some inside baseball details here I don't want to reveal, but I'm looking forward to hearing what you got to say about them.
Yeah, if I ever get around to finishing those damn marathon videos. So Marathon 8, which hasn't been released, we ended the marathon with Rush Hour. And then we just so happened to randomly end Marathon 9 with Rush Hour 2. So maybe Rush Hour 3 next year. I haven't seen the third one.
Really?
I hadn't seen the second one either, but I had seen the first one when it came out. So, which is your favorite of the three? It's kind of all blends into one.
Yeah.
It's like
so one Christmas I got the trilogy Blu-ray set, and on that set they've got like all the alternate commentaries, the director commentaries on all three films. So I did a thing where, like, for 6 nights in a row, I watched the film, then the commentary, then the commentary, and I kind of was like, I like them all now. I think probably the first one's probably my favourite. I watched the most, but the third one's great. I think the third one's stronger than the second one, and it's set in France. So how can you?
I didn't know that. Okay, yeah, I don't know anything about the third one at all. Even haven't they been talking about doing a fourth one? Has that like been in the rumor mill for?
Yeah, and they did a TV series, but it wasn't Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. They just redone it as 2 random actors.
Why? What's the point?
And then, funnily enough, it got cancelled after 1 season. So, so hopefully they're going to do another one. I want them because I mean they're still performing in films, both guys. You know, so
yeah.
Why would they not? You know, they've already done 3. It's not as if, you know, sometimes you see like one film and you're thinking, oh, they're just doing the sequel for the sake of it.
Yeah.
That's not going to be the case for this. So I hope they do that. Yeah.
Well, Hollywood loves sequels, so
they do.
Even if it's been like 30 years since the last one, they still seem to get round to them eventually.
Yeah.
Have you actually branched out and watched like Jackie Chan's classic stuff yet? Have you kind of delved into like his...
Some of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Nowhere near enough though, and I think watching you talk about a lot of them helps. And kind of, sometimes I don't know a lot of the films, you know, because of the language barrier and that sort of thing, you know. But I'd love to. I'm such a big fan of his, and I love watching documentaries about him. I love watching interviews with him. Okay. He just seems such a great guy. Do you know what I mean? Such a happy guy, and just enthusiastic and passionate about everything. You know, he just seems so happy.
Yeah, if you get a chance, I recommend getting his book. It's really good.
Yeah,
like it's well worth the read. Right, so moving forward, because I do have these in a list, even though it's you know, it's a very strange
You're not just
concept.
Coming up with these? No.
No, I know. Yeah, they're feeding me. The doctors are feeding me through a little just. Inside the headphones, there's like another little headphone that's telling me everything.
Okay.
I've lost myself on the list.
Is it? No, I don't know the question. Sorry.
The curtain's been fully pulled back. What film have you watched more than any other? If you can even... I saw that on Twitter recently. Someone said, what film have you watched more than 25 times? And I'm like, shit, I don't think I've seen any film more than 25 times. But anyway.
I thought when I read your tweet, I thought you were being sarcastic.
No. Well, maybe when I was a kid. But like...
Right.
Teenager onwards. I mean, I don't rewatch films that often. You know?
Yeah, I feel like rewatching films is really important, but obviously you don't want to get sick of the film.
Yeah.
You know, because you love it so much. You know, I recently watched Superman, the 1978 like original Superman. I'd never seen it, and then like just 2 weeks later, when we was in lockdown and that, I was just like, I'm just gonna watch Superman again, and I just watched it again. Like, I didn't even bother with the second one, just watched the first one again. But that's not. I've only watched that one twice now. In terms of all like loads of times, Home Alone, it's got to be it. And we have, what's this, 8 questions in, and we have just about to mention Star Wars for the first time, kinda. Got to be I mean, A New Hope and Revenge of the Sith are like neck and neck.
Those two, is it? Okay.
What I've watched the most, yeah. My top 3 Star Wars films would be A New Hope, Revenge of the Sith, and Force Awakens. For my own reasons, I guess. I guess we'll get into Force Awakens later, but if you ask. But I also think I skipped to certain points of films, and I watched those moments more than the full film.
Yeah.
I don't know if that counts. Like when I was younger with Home Alone, I would always skip to what I'd call the fight scenes. There's no fighting involved. But I'd skip to those moments with Harry and Marv.
Skip to the high spots.
Yeah, I just want to see the false finishes. So I always watch those moments, and then for A New Hope, I'd always skip to when they get onto the Death Star. But I'm just thinking about that now. I always like would start A New Hope. Not necessarily you would finish it all the time, but I've watched those first 6 or 7 scenes, so many times. And then Revenge of the Sith, from Anakin becoming Darth Vader, and that whole sequence of him with Obi-Wan, like I became, and when I was in drama college, just quoting it all the time, like ridiculous amounts of times, with lecturers and with classmates and stuff. Like, and they would say something, and you would try and find a way to slip one of the Anakin quotes in there. Like you would say something like, "Well, then you are lost," or something like that. You just try and like find the reason to try and quote that scene. So those ones I would watch more than anything. In terms of full films, it would be something like Home Alone or something.
Okay. I was in a fairly heated, not argument, but discussion with someone at one point, and it wasn't a pleasant chat. It was a friend who was quickly becoming not a friend, and
really.
I managed to work it in. I just kind of laughed to myself because he was telling me something, and I went, "You've done that yourself."
I was thinking that. Yeah, you have done that yourself.
Just thought, I can't believe I just quoted episode 3 in this really serious discussion. It made me laugh and kind of diffused my feeling about it. But there you go. Yeah. Episode 3 is a very quotable film for good and bad reasons. Number 9. What is the most emotional film you've ever seen? So this could be the film that made you cry the most, if you do cry at films. I don't know if you do. Or just the film that maybe stuck with you the most afterwards in a deep way.
I'm not a crier at all. Like in life,
that's interesting.
I'm just not.
In life, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there has been times.
Cold-hearted bastard.
Exactly. I just sit there and I think if I could only be in a coma and someone come and ask me movie questions, it would make me cry. But there has been times where I've watched films, and I've, of course you have. I mean, that's what films are there for, to make you feel those emotions.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, I love it in the cinema when it really makes me greet, because it's like, why does this happen to me? But I'm very good at like holding it, It's just I don't know if it's the wrestling fan in me. I'm not supposed to cry at wrestling. Tell that to Ric Flair or whatever. But anyway, sorry. But when you asked me this question, I immediately thought of like what did it stick with me? What film stuck with me? And I thought Boyhood. Not that Boyhood made me cry. It kind of made me a bit teary and emotional, I guess, but it was more so the whole situation. I've been very lucky with like my family and stuff like that, where I've never had like family issues and separations and that sort of thing. But what I related to this film more than anything was the passing of time. And there's been times where I've just been thinking like everything's going so quickly. You know what I mean? And there's a couple of quotes in this film. Patricia Arquette quotes a bunch of wisdom in this film, and it's so real. Like, did you not say something like, I just thought there would be more, or isn't there supposed to be more, or something like that? And that ended me.
That's one of my favorite lines in the film. I just thought there would be more.
And it's like just as our son's about to leave, and
leaving for college,
grown up now and stuff. It's like God, and it was just seeing that, and there's like that film's genius because there's like we quotes in there and we references in there that you would relate to if you grew up around that time as well. Like they're just casually talking about Revenge of the Sith, you know what I mean? Because it just came out. They're like, I don't think they'll do a 7th one, and now it's like, oh my God, they're talking about high school. I think she's singing High School Musical at one point, and I was like, I would always learn the dances and stuff when I was like 7, things like that really, really connected with me. And it's not one that I go back to often. But I know every time I go back to it, and I kind of forget about it sometimes when I talk about my favourite films because of that reason. And then when I go back to it, I know I'll be floored again, because of those reasons. But yeah.
Yeah, interesting with Boyhood. I saw it, loved it, said that's in my top 10 of all time, kind of. That's how much I enjoyed it. And I've never watched it again.
Really?
Never gone back to it. I own it on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
I don't know. I almost feel like I'm savoring it, Maybe I'll wait 12 years.
Yeah.
No,
Did you see it in the cinema?
Yeah, I saw it at the cinema, yeah.
See, I didn't. I saw it here. So it's kind of, I feel like that's like pure disconnect, because when you see film in the cinema, you associate your experience, with the cinema experience,
I love it. It was different.
I saw here.
Yeah, it was different. It was like upstairs in the cinema in like a small screening room.
Oh, cool.
But it was like quite packed out and quite intimate. I don't know. Maybe that kind of was appropriate for the film. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many great lines in that film. You don't want the bumpers, life doesn't give you bumpers,
Oh yeah.
Lots of stuff.
Yeah.
I heavily relate to it. I think a lot of people can relate to that film through the various ways
Absolutely.
it depicts growing up. But the father figure, because for me, my dad was the kind of the cool parent who would only have you, here and there, and so I kind of very much could see my dad a little bit in that character. So that's why I got so swept up in the film. But it's
that's why I think it's genius, because they've poked at so many different ways of life. Like there's something for everybody in that film.
Yeah, and it's just like it's life. There's nothing overly dramatic about it.
Yeah.
Maybe a few things here or there, but it's not really. I don't know. It's just a bit more natural. I like that.
I agree.
So the 10th question is, who is your favorite film director? Which I think could be a tricky question for some people. So I'm intrigued to see how you would answer this one.
I've been asked this question on the podcast before, and I said Richard Linklater. Which is ironic, because we're just talking about Boyhood, just because of that aspect. Now, every director's got like their thing, they've got their trademark or whatever. And I was thinking to myself, what's Linklater's trademark? What is he known for? And I was like, I think it's time itself. Time is his thing.
Yeah,
whether
definitely.
it be, for Dazed and Confused or Everybody Wants Some, those sort of things, that's like a certain time. Yeah. And then you look at Boyhood and it's the passing. I just think he's a genius when it comes to that sort of thing. But I don't know as much about him as I do about other directors, and I don't know as many of his films as I do about other directors, so I feel bad kind of saying him, but I just love his ideas, and I love the way he makes his films almost more than anybody. So I would say him. The popular one is Tarantino, and I was like, I don't want to just say Tarantino because everybody says QT, but he is the one film director out there right now, even more than Spielberg and J.J. Abrams and all that I would literally go out of my way and cancel all plans and make a point of going to see his new film. And I don't have another director that's like that for me. So I think maybe it is Tarantino then, because I consider his films, a big deal. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'd say like I'm probably on the same wavelength with Tarantino. Like I would go and see his latest film. I'm not sure if I saw The Hateful Eight in the cinema though. That's interesting.
Oh, I did, and it was incredible, because it wasn't in Cineworld. Remember, they did that thing because they shot it differently, and Cineworld didn't want to show it, so it wasn't in Cineworld. Yeah, it was in smaller. Yeah,
I wasn't living in the UK at that time.
Right. Okay. I saw it in like a Grosvenor, like a really West End kind of independent cinema. There was couches and glass bottles of Coke and stuff like that. You would never get that in the Cineworld. Do you know what I mean?
Glass bottles of Coke. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Really upmarket.
Exactly.
But yeah, no. Whenever he comes out a new film, I guess I would be compelled to go see it. Wes Anderson would be another one.
Wes Anderson's
I'd want to be there. Ryan Johnson, I would also say.
Oh, no! What I did, he's ruined Star Wars.
But Linklater, I can't remember when, like, I think the last film of his I saw in the cinema was Everybody Wants Some, and he's released quite a few since then. So
yeah.
But I love Linklater too, and I think time is like that. Definitely is like one of the main things. Have you seen his first film Slacker?
No.
That's like it's like real time, pretty much. And you like, do you know do you know the concept of it? Right. So this is like his first. He made a film before that. But this is his first proper film, and I think it's set in Austin over a course of a day, 24 hours, and you just follow this like character going along, chatting to someone. Someone else will come up and they'll go, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And then they'll walk off, and then we'll follow them.
Really?
They'll go somewhere else in the town, and then they meet a guy who's rambling about this, and then we go off with that guy and he speaks to someone else, and it just constantly links to all these different little mini stories that all flow in this weird. It's a very good film. It's not like his best, but it's a really. It shows you him beginning to play with that sort of stuff, which is.
Have you cool. You're a big Simpsons fan, aren't you? Have you seen the episode of The Simpsons where what's it called? It's something like Bart's Day, and it shows you the same day from all the different members of the family's perspective. So it's Homer's day and Lisa's day and Marge's day, and it's like the same day, but like you see wee things that are linked. No. I guess that kind of reminded me of that. It's been on my list, Slacker, for a long time. I've not watched it, and even the before films. That was you that got me into them, you know.
Yeah.
And that's, although that's like time as well, but it's more about the release of the films. Sure, it's in real time, you know. I have the trilogy Blu-ray set, and that was like a prized possession. I was like, it's a beautiful set, the Criterion one, and it's like it's the most beautiful one I have, you know. So.
Well, that's another thing. I got that Criterion set like as soon as it came out. That was a dream release for me, and that was like 4 years ago. I haven't touched it. But really? Any of those, again, I guess I cherish those films so much. I want them to be really special every time I watch them. You know, it's like one of those kind of things.
I think that's really fair.
Yeah. So, what is the best experience you've had at the cinema, which can be very different from watching a film at home, because the cinema experience is always different. Sometimes in bad ways, sometimes in good ways.
Yeah.
But what's one of the best ones that you can think of?
I'm a big believer in like cinema trips and stuff. Like I know it's kind of a dying art because of Netflix and Disney Plus and stuff like that.
I don't think it is. I mean, the pandemic has obviously hurt it quite a bit, but I think that it's always going to be there in some form.
I hope so, because it makes memories of the films more than anything. But the best one is hands down is The Force Awakens opening night, December 15th, 2015 or something like that, December 13th, something like that. And I don't know what it was. I mean, well, I do know what it was. It was Star Wars, but it was my first midnight screening that I'd ever been to. Star Wars has always been my favourite movie movie saga, series, that sort of thing, franchise. So the fact that we're getting a new one, you know, was such a big deal to me. It was when I was in drama school, we had this like sort of Christmas night out sort of thing. We did Secret Santa and we went to this pub and went for drinks and stuff like that. And then we were going to go to a club like after to celebrate this end of this first year in drama college. And they all went to the club, and I went to Cineworld to see The Force Awakens. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't come. I have to go see Star Wars. And it just made it so much more special, you know, because it was like I had this thing during the day, but I was still looking forward to something even more later. And my dad picked me up in town and went straight to it. And just experiencing that film with my dad was the main thing, but just with all those other people who were equally as excited, who were just ready for something. They'd watched the build-up. I'm sure every single person in the cinema watched the Road to Episode 7 series by RazorwireReviews and knew everything about the characters and stuff. And I remember my dad saying to me, he was like, I heard that the new robot really steals the show. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, BB-8, I know that because I look. But yeah, I had this sort of preconceived notion in my head of like, I'm going to love these characters because I'd done research on the actors and stuff, and I was like, the guy from Attack the Block, like, what the hell? How's he going to be in Star Wars? And I'd never heard of Adam Driver, and now he's like my favorite guy. You know what I mean? It was just a moment in my film life. I've never felt like that in the cinema since or ever before. It was just so special, and hearing that music, like that scavenger music when Rey is like looking for stuff, and she slides down the sand. And she puts the stuff on the back of the sort of trailer thing and drives past the Star Destroyer and stuff. That music and that scene, I remember sitting in the cinema just looking about going, what is happening to my life? Like, it was crazy. And I've never been able to have that feeling again. And still when I watch that film, I'm scared to go back to it as often because I call it my favourite film because of that experience. Yeah. You know, it's so special. And I'll always tell that story to people, and they'll always kind of be like, well, Star Wars number 7, really? Like, you should watch Empire Strikes Back. And I'm like, no, because I didn't see Empire Strikes Back at midnight live. You know what I mean? It's a more of a special moment, that film.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, that was huge for me as well, and it's great. It's great to hear that you had that much of a connection to it. Again, given your age, because for me, it was like 20 years of like fantasizing over what would an episode 7 be like. You know, I always wanted to see like a sequel to Return of the Jedi, and it just seemed like it would never happen. So it was always a fantasy. I even wrote my own version of an episode 7.
I was going to say, did you think about that a lot? Did you come up with your own idea?
Yeah, I had this whole little thing that I started writing when I was a kid, and so I was, you know, all into that. And then when the film came out, it was it has been eclipsed because The Last Jedi was a better experience for me. So I almost feel like it reflects poorly on The Force Awakens. But when I just take my mind back to the opening night of Force Awakens, it was just like similar to you in the sense that I remember the scene at the beginning, the attack on the village. They're all running around, and I was just thinking to myself, I'm watching this. Like, I'm actually watching a new Star Wars film. What's going on? Like, it's crazy, and it's a great film.
I'd never heard anybody cheer at the cinema before. You know?
Yeah, I can't remember if they did at The Force Awakens.
Like, it was like clapping, and the moment where Rey gets the lightsaber for the first time and stuff, like, people standing up and cheering. Like, I'd never seen that in the cinema before, you know? But I guess, I don't know, it was a kind of, it didn't happen for Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker, but I kind of wish I could replicate that again, you know, just to kind of get that feeling. But I guess maybe I don't then, because it wouldn't be as special, but I just have that memory and that feeling, you know?
That's true. When Endgame came out, I don't know if you
There's
liked
another
Endgame.
one, yeah.
Unbelievable. And I have nowhere near as much connection to those films as I do Star Wars, but the way that they paid off everything on that was beautiful. But the excitement, that's the most exciting cinema experience I've had, because people were genuinely like jacked up for it.
Just ready, yeah.
And, you know, thinking about that thing, you can't get that experience back. What I did was every night for like the next 5 nights, I went to see it again. It wasn't even about seeing the film. It was about being in a packed room of people who'd never seen it before.
Yeah.
Because I knew that's never going to happen again, you know?
And that's so funny when you go to see a classic film that you know is great with someone who's not seen it yet.
Yeah.
Like, I remember the day after Force Awakens in 2015, I went with my 2 mates, and I was like watching them the whole time.
Yeah.
You know, you want to see that buzz on their face.
Mm-hmm. It was almost like going to like a concert, like over and over again. Like, you've heard the songs before, you know what the performances are like, but you want to hear the crowd sing along to it. You know, that's
yeah. That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
And with The Last Jedi, I saw it myself the first time, and I knew that Connie was going to love at least the Holdo maneuver, because she loves like visuals like that. And I remember like looking to specifically this, and her jaw just kind of like dropped a little bit. So perfect. I knew that's exactly the kind of. But sometimes that can be difficult when you really want someone to love something as much as you at the same time, and maybe they don't.
Last Jedi was a funny one for me because I was in New York week of release, right?
Oh right, okay.
And, like, the posters of like Last Jedi were all over Times Square, and the whole time I'm trying to enjoy being in New York, and I'm just always looking up at Star Wars, knowing that as soon as I get back to Glasgow, like, I'm going straight to see Last Jedi. And I remember sitting in the cinema, like, still kind of like a wee bit jet lagged, and I'm not really sure where I was, and just loving the film and being so excited to talk to people about the film, and just being like, oh, they've done it again. And as soon as I left, I saw this response on Twitter and stuff, and I was like, what? I thought I was the problem because I was jet lagged and stuff. I was like, did I even see the film? You know? Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah, I've had quite a similar experience to that, I think. Have you seen a film in the cinema in America?
No.
No. Okay. The only one, well, I think I've seen 3 actually, but one that was really like a culture shock was Winter Soldier.
Oh yeah.
Because number one, this was like an AMC theater, and it was the same price as the other cinema we went to, but it was like deluxe, like folding leather recliners.
Wow.
Like the whole room was like horizontal. It's like lying down watching this film.
Right.
But, you know, it was very obvious by the trailers that Bucky was going to be the Winter Soldier, right? And even when the film starts, you can see where it's going. When he pulled that mask off, people were like, holy shit, man! Like, they were just like, no way! That's Bucky, man! It's just like, this looks like a wrestling match. People were getting into it. It was insane. I loved it.
That's great. Oh my God, it's Bucky Barnes!
I wouldn't want it for every film, but it was quite fun for a little one-off, you know.
Do you ever, sorry, I'm sorry, I keep go off on tangents. Do you ever watch, like reaction videos to movies on YouTube?
I have. You know, I honestly thought it was kind of like vapid content I'd never be interested in, but then I've actually gotten into... It depends who's doing it, of course.
Of course.
But there's this one channel I watch, and it's like maybe a woman in her 30s, her sister who's like 50, and then their mum who's like 70 or something, or 60.
Right.
And there's just such wholesome family reactions. Yeah. I really enjoy them. You know, I don't know. Yeah, so...
Yeah. I find it interesting when people are watching Star Wars for the first time.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of those, yeah.
Like that's the best, because I know the film so well, you know, and I'm waiting for the certain moments.
Yeah.
So there's 2 channels that I've been watching recently. One's called Viv Reacts, I think, like that. Shout out, I'm sure she's watching. And every single Monday is the other channel, because I just remembered because they posted yesterday. And it's just this, like, one person's like, I'm going to show you Star Wars for the first time, and I can't wait for you to see it. But of course, naturally, as YouTubers, you're going to check your comments, right? So they're watching Phantom Menace and that, right? And then someone's like, please only do 1 to 6. Like it'll ruin it, you know? So then both channels that I've been watching, when they get to Force Awakens, you can see them already. Like, it's not as good, and it's like, it's not the same. And the funny thing was, there was one I was watching yesterday from this girl, Viv. She's watching The Last Jedi, and I was actually thinking about sending you the link for the video, but I forgot. I'll do it after this.
Yeah.
She's watching The Last Jedi. And she's getting so into it. She's never seen it before. She knows all the negative press, but she's getting into it, and she's crying and shouting and laughing and like, oh my god, I didn't expect that to happen. The moment with like when Kylo turns the lightsaber and kills Snoke, spoiler, those moments, she's freaking out. But then as soon as the film's over and she reviews it, she knows what the comments are going to say, and she's already like, yeah, you know, I wasn't really that into it. When it's like proof, you know, right there. So it's just the way society has really affected it. So I'm going to send you the link to that. I want you to see it in real time. Someone watching it for the first time. It's fascinating.
I've been watching one channel, and she did all the Star Wars films, but then she stopped before the sequel trilogy because everyone's like, don't watch the Disney films, they're shit. And I'm just like, man. And so she's gone on to do other things. I'm like, it's kind of a shame. But there's one guy I watched, NASA, I think is his channel name, and he's a young guy. I think he's like 19, 20, and he did the Star Wars films, and brilliant, absolutely brilliant. He did the Machete Order. He went New Hope, Empire, and then 1, 2, 3.
I don't know why you do that, but
well, it was really intriguing because obviously the big twist of Star Wars is Vader is Luke's dad, right? And he opened it saying, I haven't seen these films, but I know that twist. You know, I'm not going to try and pretend to react.
That bugs me. The biggest twist in cinema history, and everybody knows it. You know what I mean?
I know, but this was awesome, right? So he didn't know that Luke and Leia were brother and sister. So for him, the Empire Strikes Back twist was in Revenge of the Sith when the babies are being delivered, and he's like, 2? And he's like, Luke has a twin brother? And then she says Leia, and he was like completely like, what? And it was amazing. It was so cool.
That sounds cool. Yeah.
And then he loved the sequel trilogy as well. He loved. I should send you a link to that because he loves The Force Awakens. He thought like this is, you know. Anyway, so we're getting off track, but yeah, it's intriguing. I didn't think I'd enjoy movie reactions, and I kind of like the format. It's kind of interesting, but
I kind of wish I hadn't seen all the films though, because then I could do it and get all these views.
Yeah, true. I know. Yeah, it seems like people are really watching movie reaction videos a lot. They're getting a lot of views.
Yeah, especially Revenge of the Sith. That's the one that gets like 200,000 views. You're like, you want to see the reaction to those moments, you know?
Yeah.
We should do a Star Wars video.
I know. We were going to do a collaboration on the Clone Wars, but
yeah,
it's just finding the time to watch them, I guess.
That's it. And I was already like far on season 1, and it was like trying to
exactly
link it up and stuff. It's fine. It was a bit too much for a bit of a commitment anyway.
Yeah, I think with the movie reactions, the thing is that I couldn't watch a film while like having the lights on and filming and then like talking as it's going. I don't mind it when other people are doing it, but I think I just like to sit there and just absorb it.
Yeah, you know? I talk way too much. Like I get my number one comment I get on like reaction videos is like, stop talking so much, you're so annoying. And I'm like, sorry.
That's kind of what they're there for, though, isn't it? I guess you can kind of watch people silently react, but I don't know.
But like my reaction, it's to talk. You know what I mean? That shouldn't
really.
It should be,
exactly.
You know, genuine. Anyway, next question.
Yes. You're pushing me forward now. What is the greatest film you've ever seen? So objectively, what would you say is like that's the best film I've seen? Not necessarily a favorite film, but like just something that is pretty damn perfect.
Well, when you say greatest, I have to think of Edge versus Randy Orton from Backlash 2020.
Okay.
My favorite, greatest film of all time. I don't know. It changes all the time. It's too subjective. I don't know. I've said Jaws before.
Well, I'm asking you to be objective and just purely just as a
fan.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go with Jaws. I think Jaws is the best film I've ever seen.
Okay.
Just because I know it's daft. I know practical effects are out of date.
No, I think that's generally considered one of the greats.
Absolutely.
So I don't think you're off base on that.
Yeah. When I watched it the first time, I was petrified, because it's supposed to be a horror, of course, and now I guess it's more of a thriller drama sort of film. But at the time in 1975 or whatever it was, like it was an 18. People had never seen this before, and now you watch it and people just don't even consider it to be a horror or a scary film or an 18 or whatever. And then when you look past those moments, when you look past the moments about the shark, the film isn't about a shark. The film is about people and how they deal with it and the relationships between those people and the adventure. And that's what really, it took me a while to get I was wondering, why am I watching this film all the time? You know the way you get like a film that's on TV and like you've seen it a million times, but you feel you have to put it on. Doesn't matter what part it is at of the film, you know, what line of dialogue is happening, you just have to watch it. And for me, it was Jaws for the longest time, and I was like, why is it Jaws? You know, I know he kills the shark. And then when I got older, you know, I was kind of like, it's because it's so brilliant. It's so geniusly, it's perfectly done. It's genius. The writing's great. The relationships are great. And I don't think the effects, or the practical effects, are bad at all. I love the switching in of the real footage of the shark under the water. I love the music. I love, you know, the three guys on the boat. And imagine, you know, in that situation, being there trapped with three guys that you don't really like, you know, trying to deal with this thing, you know. It's just this unfathomable to think about. So there's a wrestling word for you. So, yeah, man, Jaws is probably what I'd say is the greatest film of all time. And last summer, it was the hottest day of the year in Glasgow. It was like 30 odd degrees, and they were showing Jaws in the cinema. And I said, Dad, let's go. And we saw Jaws in the cinema, and that was my dream film to see in the cinema because of the music and because of the underwater shots and stuff. And it was amazing. Yeah. Now it's Back to the Future is my dream one to go to now. And I feel like because I said publicly that Jaws was my favourite when it happened, so I'm now stating Back to the Future is my dream one, so it'll happen. I heard that it would do as well, but I guess cinemas are still kind of dealing with that sort of the change, you know. So, yeah, Jaws, I'd say.
That's a great answer. Yeah, I mean, it is one of the greats. It's a brilliant film. I haven't seen it in a long time. I did see it in the cinema, I think 2012, something like that. Really? Yeah, it was it can't have been an anniversary or anything, but it was. Maybe it. I think like it came out on 3D Blu-ray or something, and so they released it in cinemas.
I saw the Phantom Menace 3D in the cinema.
I saw that, yeah.
And that was the only one they did.
Yeah, they planned to do all six, and then obviously, I don't know if the Disney purchase.
Probably was. It was around that time, anyway, wasn't it? 2012, yeah.
But I remember with Jaws, I was specifically looking around to see people, if anyone would jump when the head comes out underneath the boat, you know, the little, because that always used to get me on as a kid. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a pretty damn good answer, I think, for one of the greats. What's the best on-screen chemistry you've seen in a film? Now, this can be a romantic chemistry, or it can be a simple, friendship, a duo, buddy relationship.
I always say Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan in Russia, well, just because I've seen them so much together.
Yeah.
But there's better ones. And when I was thinking about this one, I was like, there's got to be better ones. I couldn't think of them straight away, and then it hit me. It's John Candy and Steve Martin in Planes, Trains and Automobiles. It is. There's no better friendship of two people who have never met before. It's hilarious. It's perfect. And it's become a film I watch every year now. I'd never seen it. First time I watched it was about 5 years ago. And it was on like Now TV or something. We got like a free trial of Now TV, and I was just trying to watch as many as I could before the free trial ran out.
Yeah. And
that was like one of the first ones I watched, and I remember it was really late at night, and I turned all the lights out, and at this point I had this headset hooked up to my PS4 when I used to play games. I'm not much of a gamer, but I would have the headset and the microphone and stuff, and I just had a bit like yours, and I had like the film on in my ears, and I hadn't done that before, and it was so like I was thinking maybe I should keep like an epic for that experience, like Alien or something like that. But like the fact that it was so simple as Planes, Trains and Automobiles, it just made me fall in love with the film. And did you hear the rumours of the new one?
Yep.
Now, I have no issue with that whatsoever, right? But the problem is, it's not about the film, much like what we said earlier on. It's about John Candy and Steve Martin, They make it, and of course that scene where he gets really angry and he goes and starts swearing every second word to the woman.
Well, that's where the headphones really come. You just hear every fuck enunciated perfectly, crisp through your ears.
It just came out of nowhere as well because it's such like a nice family film. So that's really my answer. Those aren't pillows. And I thought of other ones like John Travolta and Sam Jackson in Pulp Fiction. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Viggo Mortensen and
Mahershala
Ali from Green Book I thought was really good.
Still haven't seen that. I have to
really?
say.
Oh, that's a good one. You'll like that one. I've got.
I do want to see it. Yeah.
But ultimately, it's got to be John Candy and Steve Martin.
It's a brilliant film. It really is. We recently rewatched that. We kind of did a bit of a John Hughes kick and watched some I hadn't seen, watched some that I have. It just every time I see it, I'm wow. This isn't just like a film that I love. It's a great film. It's such a good. It's a comedy, but there's like heart to it at the same time. It's really interesting how the big fight they have in the hotel room. that's kind of normally a scene in that film that would happen near the end. Like they just grate on each other for the whole film, but they kind of get it out of the way in the first half an hour, and then and then you just follow it. Yeah, it's brilliant, man. It's so good. Those two, such great performers. John Candy was amazing. But yeah,
and he goes, why would I give you my credit card? And he just goes, kindness. He's like, kindness. Oh, so good. I can't watch it unless it's Christmas time. So
they're not even amusing accidentally. Here's an idea. Have a point.
You're going the wrong way. He's like, thank you.
He's drunk.
Anyway,
one of my favorite bits of that is just these are made of helium, so they're very light. I quote that all the time when no one gets it because it's such an obscure little thing.
Yeah, it's an obscure job he has though.
I know.
Cutting rings. Yeah.
If you could watch only one film before you died, on your own, which film would you pick? The reasoning behind this question is that watching films with people is it's a great group experience, but watching a film on your own is a much different animal, I think. So that's kind of the basis of this question. If you could just have one film that you could watch before the end, and it's on your own, what would you pick?
Before the end, well, I thought Home Alone 2. Right, because although I wouldn't be with my family and with my loved ones, the nature of the film would still make me think about it, and it would still put me right back there.
Yeah.
But now, when you put it like that, like when you don't want anybody around you,
well, yeah, I mean, you can interpret it in different ways, but yeah, that's.
Yeah, I don't know. Then it's probably something like a Pulp Fiction or something so epic that you really need to kind of like, you can come up with your own opinions on each individual character and each individual story.
Yeah.
Maybe that would probably be one of the maybe one I've not seen before. Checking all one off the list before the end.
It's risky, but why not?
Yeah, exactly. May not even get to the end. So, or he's something like Castaway, when he's on his own. Something like that. I watched that in quarantine. I had a weird urge to watch Tom Hanks being on his own when he had lockdown. So, that's a great question. But I'll stick with my original answer. I'll go with Home Alone 2 because it would remind me, and I wouldn't need to be with loved ones to connect with that film,
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Why would it be 2 over 1? Is it your favorite of the two, or is it the one that you watch with them the most? Or
I think it's the preferred one, but I think the first one's a better film. But I think the second one's probably my favorite one of the two. We're not even going to talk about 3 and 4. Which I actually didn't mind. No, but I didn't mean the third one when I was younger. But I think was not going to do it. They're not going to do another 5 or something recently, and I was like, Macaulay Culkin's 40. They're not going to.
I saw that tweet. That tweet was brilliant. Like, hey, you want to feel old? I'm 40.
I think I don't know. I just like the second one a little bit better, just because of the New York aspect to it. Because when I was younger, New York was a bit of a dream, and then when I went to New York and I went to the Rockefeller Center, and I was standing there with a Christmas tree, and I was thinking, this is where Kevin goes to meet his mum at the end of the film, and that was really like not emotional, but that kind of moved me a little bit standing there. I know it's a film and it didn't really happen, but it's like I'm here. It was wild.
No, I get that. I went to many movie locations in New York. I actually went to the Rockefeller Center, but I didn't even think about that because I was there for the Ghostbusters thing.
You did the Ghostbusters thing, I remember.
Yeah.
And that completed series that you did.
I know. Yeah. I can't believe I completed that. Just such an achievement.
I just wanted to see the WrestleMania bits and didn't even get to them till like last year or whenever it was.
Oh, I know.
No, listen, I understand.
I got the Raw after WrestleMania 1, and then I think there's like 2 others.
Yeah.
One day.
These things take time. Much like us doing a video together. 10 years.
Very good point. Yeah. So the final question, and this could determine whether you wake up or not. So answer this carefully. What would be your perfect movie watching experience if you were able to choose everything? The film, the time, the place, with any people you want at any point in their lives. Just full creative freedom, complete fantasy. Your perfect movie watching experience.
That's an interesting detail. Like with anybody at any point in their lives. That's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah. I kind of thought about this in terms of the experience, not necessarily the film itself.
Yeah, sure. That's.
I don't know what you think about like a cinema experience. Do you prefer like a full house, or do you quite like having a wee bit of space?
I like having space, but if it's packed out and it's a film where it's just like a Friday night and everyone's there just because it's Friday night, I'm not into that really, because then they're not really into the film and there'll be people annoying me. But something like a midnight showing where it's like it's all fans, you know, we're all the same kind of people, we're all excited for this. That's
people dressed up and stuff.
Yeah, so it depends. It depends, but usually I like a bit of space, I suppose.
Yeah, I do like going into the cinema and seeing it's a little bit empty. Not empty, but like not full. You kind of go, okay, good. It's not going to be. There's not so much pressure. So I guess I would probably go with that. Like maybe like a half full cinema, not one of the big ones, because when it's half full, it does feel empty. But one of the kind of smaller ones that kind of there's people there that do just want to see the film, you know, and maybe our cinema goers, you know, that don't worry about the type of film or what film it is. They're just going to want to go and see a film in the cinema, for that experience. Something like that, probably with my dad, because we've been to see so many films together. But I do have a thing, I used to have a thing with my mates. We would go every Wednesday night. It would be me and my two mates, Hogg and Campbell, would go together. And that, like, it didn't matter what was on. It was always every Wednesday we would go and see. Doesn't matter what film it was. And it was always the three of us. So maybe that as well, because I've got so many good memories of those nights, because you're with mates that kind of are interested in film too, and you're able to have that conversation afterwards. It's not just like oh yeah, it was good or whatever, it's more like what did you think, and it's more of like an actual conversation afterwards. And I know, like, it's great to come out of a film and just let it sit for a bit. So we have a rule where we're not allowed to mention the film at all until we're on the escalators, because you need to give yourself like a wee trip to the toilet, sit there for a bit watching the credits to fully process it. So something like that, something quite relaxed like that, where you're able to do things like that would be well up my street. And I think in terms of the film itself, I love big blockbusters and that sort of thing, but there's nothing better, I don't think, than when you're in the cinema and you're watching a film that you don't really know much about, and it completely catches you off guard, and you're like, oh my god, like I love this film now. You didn't know any of the actors, didn't know the director, until you see them on screen. You go, oh, there's that guy or that girl or whatever, and it totally hooks you. And then when you come out of it and you're kind of blown away and you're kind of surprised, and then you realise that the person next to you was the same, and you're like, oh my god, you remember when that happened? I think that buzz is really special, and I almost prefer that to anticipation, and then maybe it's not as good as you were hoping. I much prefer not expecting anything and getting blown away. I think of there's a film called Searching that came out. And I wanted to see it just because it was all about social media and it was all about like digital ways of filming. And I was just, it's a cool film that's out or whatever. I had no idea who was in it or directors or anything. And I was just so invested in the film. It was crazy. And that was like a total blind watch, And then there was the film Bad Times at the El Royale. I went to see because it was about time and about seeing, the same sort of event happen from different perspectives. I like that idea, like a Back to the Future or something kind of similar to that.
Yeah.
But again, that was the only reason I went to see it. And then I was like, oh my god, all these great cast members and these great performances, and there's these songs, people just singing it, but they sing the full song, and I just didn't expect these certain things, and it really caught me off guard. So moments like that. So in terms of an ideal experience, it would be something like that. A cinema maybe half full with film lovers, at a good time, going to see a film that you don't really know much about that you end up being so invested in. Would probably be ideal for me. I'd love to watch all the Star Wars films again in the cinema, not knowing what to expect. I guess because I'm in a different mindset now than I would have been at the time. When I watched Revenge of the Sith in the cinema, I was just wanting to see the lightsaber fights. But if I saw Revenge of the Sith now, I would die, I think. So, what I mean? When I saw Force Awakens and that sort of thing, I wanted to be like that, in that mindset, watching all the films. So something along the lines of that. I know it's probably quite long-winded, but there you go.
I like that. You didn't pick a film. You picked a feeling, and I like that. That's a good way of looking at it.
It's a good way. Yeah, totally.
And I think that passion is actually going to bring you back to consciousness. So I can already feel the walls of this dream space collapsing. So I'll thank you for joining me. Again, it was about time that we did something together. And
now that we've done this, though, we can do more. Yeah.
Yeah, we ripped off the Band-Aid. We'll,
yeah.
It wasn't a painful experience.
Yeah.
So thanks again, man, for joining me. And everyone go check out anything new on your channel coming up that you want to plug, or anything, or the podcast or anything like that.
I don't know when this is going to go up, but on day of recording of this, I've got a thing coming up tonight, which is my top 22 films that I watched when I was 22. I just turned 23 last week. So I thought I'd get all the films that I watched when I was 22 in that year, pick my top 22, and then I'll do it every year. I'll pick a 23 next year and a 24 and a 25, and I'll do that every year. So that's coming up tonight on recording day, maybe a couple of days ago when this is posted or whatever. So yeah, that, and I always do, you know, kind of funny videos and that sort of thing in terms of reacting. But I hope that my kind of goal is that people will just watch it regardless, you know, because like if I'm going to put the videos, or if I'm going to react to the videos, it's because I'm interested in the video. It's not because like I want to just talk about Star Wars. I want to, you know, find fans of this certain type of video. It's because I think the video is going to be fun to do, you know.
Yeah.
So I do loads of different things, as I spoke about earlier. So if you just anyone wants to check out the channel, they can pick and choose the type of series or type of video they might want to see, and they might want to find something
exactly.
that they like, you know. So, but thank you for having me on here. This has been a lot of fun, and I hope for many more.
Yeah, definitely, man. We'll definitely do something else again. I'm sure there's many things we can talk about in the world of Star Wars and beyond. So,
yeah.
But yeah, that's a really good idea for a video, actually. I like that concept, so I'll be checking that out and seeing what films you picked. Anyway, nice one, man. Take it easy, and thanks for watching, everyone.